All right, let's say we're doing cylindrical OD plunge grinding. Plunge grinding where the wheel just comes down and goes dot, 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 dot. Not traverse where he goes doink, doink, doink. Not even plunge with oscillation where he goes but where he just does a straight plunge like that. Now the way these cylindrical OD operations are usually done, even with a 30-degree swivel, same thing. You usually program this so that we have a roughing, a semi-finishing, and a finishing. Some people break it up. They do a super fine finishing. Some people just do roughing and finishing plus spark out. But what most people do is they do some kind of rapid feed where the thing goes super fast and then it goes at a roughing and then semi-finishing and then finishing and then spark out. Now maybe you've got some kind of acoustic emission sensor and it tells you when you need to stop your rapid in-feed. That's fine. A lot of machines don't have acoustic emission, so companies have to say, well, you know, where should I start my roughing? Or where should I end my rapid feed? And where should I start my roughing? Where should I start my semi-finishing? And where should I start my finishing? So let's take a look at where you should start your roughing. Now, some companies I'll visit, they'll say, hey man, we've got this crazy long cycle time and you got to help us with the cycle time. Like, okay, I'm cool with that. And they say, you know, that's our final size right there. And we have some kind of blank diameter, like that. And I say, okay. And I said, now where do you start your rapid in-feed? And they'll say, oh, rapid in-feed, we start way the hell out here. We start 2 miles away, our rapid in-feed. And I go, well, why do you start way the hell over there? And they say, well, yeah, we don't want to crash into our part. I said, okay, that makes sense. Crashing into a part is a bad idea. Well, sometimes your blank diameter looks like that. Sometimes your blank diameter looks like that. Sometimes your blank diameter maybe was like that. And maybe back in 1998, you had a really big one. And it was like that. So why did you choose that number? And they say, well, we just want to be safe, you know, just want to be safe. Don't want to crash into a part, so we back off 5 millimeters, some crazy amount, because we want to be safe. Say, okay, I'm cool with that. Well, why not 4 millimeters? Why not 6 millimeters? Why not 10 millimeters? Why not 1 millimeter? Where did you find that number? Where did you pull that number from? And Joe the grinder will usually say, I pulled that number out of my head. Just kind of needed a number, and I back off 1 millimeter. I said, okay, well, maybe what we should do is do our due diligence and get a distribution of blank diameters and see what that blank diameter is. Now, some companies do this a little bit. Some companies do this a lot, and a lot of companies don't do it at all. I once visited a company in Japan, and this company in Japan did this. Yoshi went out to the shop, and Yoshi said, I'm going to measure my blank diameter. Maximum blank diameter. And then Yoshi took part number 2. I'm going to measure that blank diameter. And then Yoshi measured blank number 3. Now he could have quit there, but Yoshi said, no, I'm not going to measure 3 blank diameters. I'm going to measure 1,000 blank diameters, just because that's how thorough I am. And then I'm going to plot all those blank diameters, and then I'm going to get a distribution. And I'm going to say, well, where are all these blank diameters? Most of them are in here. Occasionally, we'll get one way the heck out there. And then maybe once in a great while, we'll get one there, but the vast majority of them are there. And then Yoshi does a mean, he does a standard deviation. He says, what's the probability, if that's my mean and that's my standard deviation, that if I start my roughing here that I'll crash? What's the probability that if I start my rapid infeed there that I'll crash? What's my probability that if I start my rapid infeed there that I'll crash? And what's my probability that if I start my rapid infeed there that I'll crash? So maybe if I start there at 29 mil in diameter, I'll crash 1 in 100 parts. Well, maybe I need to back off a little bit, or maybe I can tolerate that once in a while, and we're going to crash, depending on how you define crash, but we're going to bump into that guy pretty quick there, or maybe we really need to be that safe and do it right up here. You do the statistics. If this is 1 in 100, then maybe 1 in 1,000, we're going to crash right there, or 1 in 1,000,000, depending on how many we can tolerate. So what I encourage my customers to do is don't just pick a number out of your head and say, hey, we're going to start there just because 31 is my wife's birthday and that's a good number. Pick a number based on a statistical distribution, do the hard work, find a young apprentice saying, hey man, go out and measure 1,000 work pieces, plot them all in Excel, and then we're going to have an intelligent choice of where we want to start our rapid infeed. And if you cut out 0.5 millimeter of the rapid infeed, 0.5 millimeter with a 1 minute cycle time, 60 parts an hour, 480 parts a shift, millions and millions of parts a year, that will add up in the long run. But you've got to do your due diligence like Yoshi and figure out what that distribution is.